Night School, which is the new comedy starring Kevin Hall and Tiffany Haddish, directed by Malcolm D. Lee, whose filmography includes Barbershop: The Next Cut, Scary Movie 5, and most recently, Girls Trip. So the story is that Kevin Hart is a high school dropout. At the beginning of the film, we see him in a younger incarnation doing his GEDs, which is the thing that you have to get in the general education diploma, the GED, the thing you have to go through. And he's in the middle of the exams and he walks out and says, I don't need this, I'm never going to need this, I'm going to be huge and famous, I'm never going to need this. The next thing you see, he's working in a hardware store, but he's dating a very, very wealthy partner who works in the city. He, however, is set to inherit the hardware and camping supply store in which he works because he's such a good salesman and the boss absolutely loves him. The boss says, there's actually quite a funny joke. The boss says, you're like the son I never had. And Kevin Hart says, but you have got a son. He says, yeah, I know, but you're like the one I never had. And he's going to get, but then the next thing is the store is accidentally destroyed. So he needs another job. And he's clearly good at selling because we've seen that he's a good salesman. And a friend of his who works in the city says you could get a job in investment, but you can only do that if, guess what? You've got a GED. So the next thing is time-honoured fashion. This is an idea that has been done by movies many times before. He has to go back to school. He's grown up, but he has to go back to school to get his general diploma. So he goes back to the school where he was a kid, where he was a pupil himself, and he meets a bunch of misfits, all of whom are doing night school. One of them is a downtrodden housewife who longs for something better. Somebody else is a young girl who says it's either juvenile hall or college. Another is a dad who's trying to make his sons pass his exams and says that he will pass his exams in order to do it. Another one is a prisoner on Skype. Another one is a conspiracy theorist who just wants to better himself. And the whole school is now run by a head teacher who turns out to be, sorry about the contrivance, who turns out to be a pupil who was at the school before, who Kevin Hart had bullied, and who is now getting his own back by running the school in his own particular way. Plus, he's very, very annoying. Here's a clip.
Can we just take down the toot?
Toot? Really?
No,
you haven't even seen the beginning of this attitude. Wait, say that to me again?
I apologize. That was a poor choice of words. I just mean I need you to show me the respect that you would show your boss.
Because it's your house, right?
Oh, you did the black voice thing with him?
It's not a black voice. In actuality, not a black voice.
No, you do a black voice. You don't remember when you was in that meeting, you was like, we gonna get it lit up in here, this meeting lit.
It was very lit.
You did it at the staff meeting when you were like, I keep it 100.
When have I never kept it 100?
When you added that AP calculus to my class,
All right, agree to disagree. Listen, I hate to break up this pleasure party of delusion, but I have work to do.
Wow.
So if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna do my thing.
And that's one of the funnier scenes in the film. Here's the thing. Firstly, I think Kevin Hart is actually funny. I mean, I think he's a great physical comedian. There is a touch of the kind of the Norman Wisdom downtrodden anti-hero about him, and he does often cast himself in roles in which he's put upon, jokes about him being too short, jokes about him being underachieving, that sort of stuff, and he does that rather well. Plus, he does know how to take a largely unfunny line and turn it into something that's funny. The problem is his choice of material, certainly on the big screen, is not great. He still seems like one of those, comic performers who hasn't really found the right kind of movies in which to shine. The thing that's weird about this is, I don't hate it, because its heart is kind of in the right place. I mean, oddly enough, despite the intermittent bouts of gross out comedy and vomit and all the usual stuff that you would get in this kind of movie, it's not sexist, it's not racist, it's got a diverse cast and diverse characters, and weirdly enough, it has a progressive attitude toward learning difficulties and subjects like dyslexia, and underneath it all is a actually fairly admirable message about there are reasons that people fail at school that are often to do with things that you don't know about, that aren't evident from the outside. And and if you give everyone a chance, then everyone can shine. So there is, in terms of its heart, it's Kevin Hart being in the right place. It is. So there's nothing, you said a thing once about, I take against movies if on the one hand I don't like them, but on the other hand there's this other thing about I find them problematic or offensive. This is actually, in many ways, oddly admirable in terms of its overall message. The problem is, it's not funny, or at least it's not funny enough. There are occasional jokes. I mean, I sat there willing it to be better than it was, and I came out at the end feeling just sort of disappointed, which is it's a missed opportunity. there are some moments in which the performers managed to make the most of it. And for something that basically, as I said, is fairly benign, which is not something can be said, because so much mainstream comedy now relies on gross out and relies on a really aggressive form of humour, which I've got nothing against, but I just kind of find it a bit of a, nihilistic raison d'etre. This is actually not that film. It's another film, and I wish that it was another film I could say, okay, and therefore, and I laugh, but I didn't. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't find it funny. So it was an insufficient laughter problem, which is made more of a shame by the fact that there were certain moments in it where I thought, this would be so much better if this was actually funny. And I would refer you again to Bad Moms, which was a perfect example of one of those movies that actually was much, much funnier than I expected. And I had gone in thinking, I'm not going to enjoy this, but I did. And it was a real surprise. This is just not funny enough, which is a shame, because its heart is sort of in the right place.